And we're live. Here we are. This is happening. This is They Talk Funny. I've got my very special guest, the talented, the funny, the very interesting Mr. Darren Henwood is in the virtual studio with me right now. We're both in the same neighborhood, but we don't see each other because we're not traveling outside. So less than Darren. Welcome, Darren. How are you doing through all this COVID time?
I'm okay, Robot Paul. Your mic's going all robotic again. I love how as well, like your head makes it look as if you're in Back to the Future and you're slowly disappearing. Like maybe your mom and dad didn't kiss in the right moment, and this is you beginning to kind of fade away.
That is somebody has to go back in time and save me. That's what has to happen. Darren, is that going to be you? Are you going to go back?
You need to go back in time and kiss your mom.
No, that's okay. I mean, I don't have that fantasy. You've got your glass of wine.
Joe, I've just noticed I've got a glass of wine in my hand. There's an empty glass over my shoulder on this side. It just looks as if I'm just leaving wine glasses all over the place. That's not mine though. That other one.
That's you have roommates or no? They've actually given you the kitchen dining room.
No. I live with my lovely girlfriend, and she's out in the balcony right now enjoying what's left of the evening sun. Yes. With a socially distanced friend, who's having a balcony hang, which is what we're allowed to do these days.
Which is, and for anyone who's kind of confused because it's been opening up in their neighborhoods, we're based in Montreal, so Montreal is one of the hardest hit cities in North America, and so it's probably going to be one of the slowest ones to bounce back, despite what the mayor, the premier wants to say.
Yeah, if it was up to the premier and the PQ there or whoever it is that's in power, they'd be like, let's have like foam parties and bars all the time. Like let's do Jello shots off of each other's like throats. Yeah, that's like going to barbershop and lick a stranger in the mouth. Like they do not give a shit.
Yeah, they don't. It's like they
French
don't understand. Legault. It's no. There's worse out there. I get. We can't. There's worse than Legault, which is the scariest part. But okay, we're both based in Montreal. We're both speaking sort of English, and you're
Queen's tongue.
The Queen's tongue. You are obviously
lick. Something else you should lick. Sorry, I'll let you get a sentence out.
This is the beauty that is Darren Henwood. Darren Henwood came to Canada in 2010. I met him fairly shortly afterwards. He had done some comedy in the UK, but I think you sort of more blossomed over here than you did back in the UK.
100%. I only did comedy when I was a wee lad in Scotland.
And that was in Scotland, but you had met your first wife in London. Is that correct?
Yeah. I like that you see my first wife. I don't have a second wife. My one and only wife. Ex-wife is fine. You're on wife number 2. We're not all on wife number 2, bud.
Well, it's the starter wife.
Yeah, I've had my starter wife, and yes, I met her in London. She was a lovely Canadian girl, and we took a holiday romance way too far. By me emigrating to Canada, learning a new language, marrying her and becoming a permanent resident of this fine country, of which I'm now a citizen. Just before quarantine, I snuck in under the gun there and got my citizenship in before it all went to shit.
Now, the thing I'm a little bit confused. You're from Hamilton, Scotland, originally. Yes. You said that you did comedy in Scotland. You didn't do comedy while you were living in London?
I think I did one show. Because I stopped comedy for most of my 20s because I did it when I was like 18 or 19. As I said, I was a wee lad. And then I ran out of things to say and I wasn't particularly like worldly. So I decided to go and live a little bit. And by live a little bit, I mean get horrendously drunk for most of my 20s, which means I still had nothing to talk about because I couldn't remember it. But then when I came to Canada, I started to kind of grow up a little bit, and because I was like stranger abroad and then I was moving countries, I had all these new experiences. All of a sudden, it was easier to write jokes.
Fish out of water syndrome also helps you connect with the audience because they're much more forgiving. You're the unique thing that they want to pay attention to. Which
you're from New Scotland.
Yeah, I'm originally from New Scotland. So yeah, you were like, I was producing an open mic at that time, so that's when we met, and just the fact that your voice was different, and I don't mean the accent, it was just your point of views were different. It was easier to help put you on. Now, you've mentioned writing jokes. Do you have a process that you follow? Do you have a daily routine that you do you sit down, or is it you wait for inspiration, or a brick to hit you in the head, or
the fact that you're even asking me this question is like, you're clearly, I mean, what minute are we on? We're on minute 5:45 and you're trying to fill time already, because you know the answer to this question. I do not write jokes at all. I tell stupid stories about my life, and I'm a terrible joke writer. Like, you've seen me on stage almost more than anybody else probably in Montreal, considering how much we used to work together when I moved here and how much stage time you were generous enough to give me in the very beginning, which I'm always appreciative of. I would swap my left arm to be able to write a set-up punchline joke. Like, I see like a Michelle Dominique or Jason Hattrick or David Price, all of these like people, and Elspeth Wright, all these people who are like really smart and really good at writing jokes, like set up punchline. I'm just sitting there with like crossed eyes, being like, how do they do that? Like, it's this mystical art that I've never been able to get. So much so that Theo Radomski, who works in the Comedy Nest, who you know, brother of also funny comedian Peter Radomski, said one time on a bit that I had, hey, I've got a tagline for you, and he told me this tag, and it was about how we should have seen the divorce coming because my wife's a Quebecois, I'm a Scotsman, she's a separatist, I'm a separatist, so we separated. Like, he's the one that wrote that line. And then another girl who's another good writer and a good friend of mine, like Kirsten Finch, a good friend of both of ours, like said, oh yeah, like I was lamenting my lack of writing skills this one time. She's like, oh, you've got some good jokes in your set. What about that one about you and your wife and being? I'm like, it's the only fucking joke in my set that I didn't write myself, and it's her favorite joke. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. So like, I am a terrible joke writer. Like, all the best jokes I have are dumb stories that literally happened to me, and I don't need to write them down because I'm just recalling events. And telling them in an entertaining way. So no process, just a lot of drunken stories.
Your charm, your stage presence is fantastic, and that's what helps sell these stories. Now, the reason I asked that though is because the mandate of the show is that I ask all the performers about what their process is in writing.
Cool. Well, I'm sure everyone has a lot more.
Glad you watched previous ones.
Hey man. I literally, you and I both spoke about 16 minutes ago when I was just off of a call from my day job, which I've had to obviously get. Like, I have very little time to even be on these things, never mind watch other people on these things. I like watching people on stage, which I'm so glad I can get back and do now that the bars are beginning to open. And I'll watch people on stage and I'll be like enthralled with some people. But like, there becomes a certain point where people will talk about. I'm not a comedy scholar either, which is maybe one of the reasons I'm not a good writer. Like, everyone, comedians and stuff, will be like, "Oh, did you see Mike Birbiglia's new special, or did you see Dave Chappelle's new special?" I'm just like, no, I'll watch it at some point. Like, I don't want to absorb all this comedy content all the time. Like, I've never seen Sons of Anarchy, and they just put 7 seasons of that on Netflix. What do you think I'm fucking watching right now? I'm on like season 3, episode 2, and only started like 3 weeks ago. So my consummations or consumings are they tend to not be comedy, to be perfectly honest. Which is another reason I'm a terrible joke writer, is because I'm not watching my peers. Watch your peers, kids. Stay in school. Yeah. Eat your greens. Wash your hands. Don't be like me.
Do what I say. Don't do what I do.
Exactly.
It's okay. Now, I do find that you do have sort of a natural pacing. You do know I know you're writing a little bit on stage because I've seen you rearrange the jokes. So you do time it so the funny bit comes last. You do understand structure. It's just taking the time to place it before you go up and tell the story for the first time. And some of that is you're generating into that naturally because it's how you do it now. You've done it enough times that you begin to see it.
And I do like obviously react to the audience. If the audience is laughing at a certain bit more than others, I'll try and make that bit the end of the joke, and like curtail stories to finish in what would technically be the middle of the story, but it's the best bit of the story. So then that's where the story tends to end. It's like I'm not inept at knowing what funny is. I just don't have the skill set to write the jokes that I want to write and that other comedians necessarily would respect. And not that's a barometer for which you should aim. You should always write the stuff that you want to talk about and you want to write about. I just want to be really lazy. And as you said, like basically skate by on my stage presence and accent as long as is humanly possible until like I get found out in like various competitions and get passed over for festivals. So like, oh, you're not really saying anything. You're just trying to be charming and aloof. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And that's basically it. So my comedy career will go as long as like when my teeth start falling out and I began to get like super depressed and belligerent, more than when I've had a few whiskeys, then my comedy career is over because I cannot fall back on the jokes.
All right, it's you're very self-aware, a little sadly so. Now, how long have you been in therapy? You mentioned therapy to me the other day.
I mean, I'm not sure that's something you should probably bring out in the public forum, considering that was a private message I sent you. But sure, let's talk about it.
Well, you told me you're an open book. I said anything we shouldn't talk about.
That's actually true. I did say I'm an open book. I've been in therapy for probably almost 2 years now, and I've been on antidepressants for about a year and a half, and literally saved my life. Like the fact that I did was bluntly refusing to have all these paths because of like stigma and upbringing and we don't talk about our problems, we just drink our problems away, and all these types of like silly anecdotal things that you hear through popular culture in Scotland and all these types of places. I wish that someone had like came up and give me a big slap around the head and throw me into a padded cell with a therapist about 5-10 years ago. I'd be like I don't know. I'd be doing a lot. I don't know where I'd be, but I'd be doing a hell of a lot better than I am now. I wouldn't have as many funny stories to tell on stage, to be fair. But like in the rest of my life, I might be a much more well-rounded human being. I have to apologize a lot less now. That's one of the things that people don't tell you. Like not having to apologize like every 4 to 5 days is a huge weight off your shoulders once like you've been doing that for a long period of your life. So if any of you are like thinking out there, I don't know if therapy's for me and I don't want to put drugs in my body, fucking try it first, and then like don't talk yourself out of it before you've tried it, because I can't tell you how much better my life is now that I don't hate myself all the time.
So I definitely second that. That's one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up, is because I felt that you'd have an endorsement for it, and that's an important thing, that people take care of themselves. I noticed that we have some viewers who are watching us live. If you have any questions for Darren, you can put them into the comments. But
only if you ask them in a pirate voice. I'll only answer questions that contain the phrase "R."
All right. Well, that has to match up with the mustache, and you just made it more difficult for us to get questions. So why did you move to London? Because I always assumed you went to London for a combination of like either school and comedy or comedy and work.
I'm going to move you slightly just so I can turn a light on, because I've been going by daylight up until now, and it's getting a little bit dark.
There we go.
Both in tone of conversation and also the light that's coming in. So why did I move to London? I moved to London to get the fuck away from Scotland, because it was full of white Scottish people, which, you know, I am one of. So like I'm a self-hating white Scottish person, if you like. But I'm sure it's the same when you go back to Halifax. I've been to Halifax once. It seems kind of like a homogenized place. Like,
yes,
everyone seems to be white or white adjacent, with a couple of pockets of non-whites.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone has roughly the same cultural, socioeconomic background and upbringing within like a very narrow parameter. And that's what Scotland was. Like when I was growing up, I didn't meet a black person until I was 17 years old, like face to face. That's how homogenized Scotland is. So I just wanted to see the world, and there are very few cities in Europe where you can go and see the world, but London is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
Like London, it's harder to find a British person in London than it is to find someone from anywhere else. So I went to London for work, but also to kind of like feel a little bit more kind of cultured. Plus, all roads lead to London. If you have any ambition in the UK, all the money's there. It is the New York or I don't want to say Toronto because I don't want to lose more viewers. But like it's the New York of the UK, whereby if you want to go there, or the LA if you're in the entertainment business. London has everything. London is 10 times bigger than any other city in the UK, pretty much in terms of opportunity and money and just anything you can think of.
When was the last time you were back? I know that you had some stories about visiting your parents.
Sure. When was I back last? It's probably like Christmas, the year before last, and I told my parents like I'm not coming back for a while. Little did I know that wouldn't be a choice of mine whatsoever, and because my mum was actually supposed to come to Canada this year. She's supposed to be here right now. No, she would have left by now. But so that all got held off. But like one of the fortunate things for me when it comes to COVID is I've not really lived close to my parents for like 16 years. So for me to feel far away from them, and I can't like I always look at families who are really close with a little bit of envy because we've never been super close. But then when it comes to pandemic, it's like, oh, I only talk to my parents on Skype now. I'm so sad. I'm like, I was talking to my parents before Skype existed from long distance. We were just talking on like phones. Yeah. So like it's not really changed my relationship with my parents in any way, shape, or form. And they're both fine. Like we come from annoyingly fucking healthy people. Are we allowed to swear on this, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are.
On the internet. I've never seen swearing on the internet before, so I just want to check.
Fuck no.
In case you lose all of your, advertisements and your sponsors. So like what's annoying about my family is that on my dad's side, my gran lived into her 90s, and that's quite old for like a northern Scottish person. She was like 94, 95. His dad died young, but he was like a super alcoholic. And then on my mum's side, her mum also lived into her 90s, which is again old for that generation of Scotland. And her dad, my grandfather on my mother's side, lived till he was 100. So I'm fucking never going to die. That's what I'm worried about. Like on both sides, we have like octogenarian plus people, even a centurion. And I've got those genetics on both sides. So like if anyone has some advice how I'm going to Benjamin Button the last 50 years of my life and just wither away into a heap, then please leave your comments below at support via www.linktr.ee/Paul Ash. Actually send money to Paul Ash. That's what that's there for, right?
If you do that, the top button says "Buy me a drink," and so if you could do a quick little donation, that helps keeps the channel alive.
Not only you pay to see these types of stories on stage.
Exactly. Now that actually, this is one of not just sort of one of my favorite jokes of yours, but one of the favorite jokes with a follow-up. Like when you arrived in Canada the first time, you had a story.
Yeah. So the story I tell is about when I arrived in Canada and I got my luggage searched, and I had been taking a bag that wasn't my bag into Canada. It was my starter wife's bag that she left for me in London to bring over to her after she had moved back and I was emigrating. And it, for some reason, it's the only time I've ever had my bag searched at the airport was this one day where I have a fucking strange bag. So they must have been able to sense that I was like, I don't know, I had too many bags for me. And then to cut a kind of long story short, because I don't want to do a 7-minute bit on the thing. Basically, it cut to like 5 minutes later. The guy's searching through the bag and pulls out my wife's very large twin-tip purple dildo, and is just looking at me, being like, "You're supposed to pack this yourself." And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess I have to claim it's mine, buddy." And it was kind of hilarity, and literally like the whole room stopped and was like, "What is this guy going to do in this situation?" And everything was fine. It was like, I just claimed it all, like, it's all mine. Just don't ask too many questions. Let's just get out of here and get on with our day. And that all happened.
How long had you been doing that joke before this follow-up happened?
Oh, I mean, it was probably like a good. I mean, when did the Wiggle room open? First of all,
6 years ago.
Okay, so I did it in the Wiggle room, and this is where it happened. So it must have been like 3 years plus, because the story happened to me on day one coming to Canada. I started comedy on May of year one. Yeah, exactly. Like year one of I started in May, so 2010. I probably started doing the joke around January or February of 2011, and it became like my closer for like a long time. So it probably was like 4 or 5 years later, which gives you another indication as to how terrible a writer I am that I'm still doing this fucking joke. Oh, it's a great story though. Like I still pull it out sometimes. I don't pull out anyway. So I'm doing the joke in the Wiggle room, and I don't know if you remember like the first iteration of bar staff in the Wiggle room, like the very, very first ones. There was a blonde girl there, and she was there for quite a while.
McLean.
I can't remember. No, it wasn't McLean. It was before McLean. It was still Junior that was the barman at this time.
Oh, okay.
It was like back before McLean. So, I'm telling the joke, and I see her like disappear, like in fits of laughter, just sink down behind the bar, and I was like, "Oh, she's really loving this story. This is great. Like I'm really striking a chord with these people tonight." And then like I'm sitting around with some friends after the show, still in the Wiggle room, and she came up to me and she's like, "Yeah, I know the guy that you're talking about." She's like, "What?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, the guy in your story." Like, and then she told me his name, and I say his name like I'm murder his name all the time. Like it was an Italian name. Sometimes I'd say it's Francesco or Lorenzo or whatever. It was an Italian name. I don't actually remember the exact name that she said. And I'm like, "How do you possibly know this name?" She's like, "Because he's told me this story before. I just didn't believe him, and then you told it on stage, and I just put the two things together." And I was just like, "That is hilarious." And then so I started telling the story of that night after it happened, like on stage, and it like again didn't write it. Wish I could write a really good tag that's another like minute bit onto like an already 7-minute story. I really wish I was that smart, but I'm not. I just hope that dumb shit keeps happening to me that I can turn into jokes.
Living in Montreal, it does kind of help with the dumb shit happening in general, not just the politics.
Yeah, although I was hoping to get some really rich material from moving to Verdun, but it's all gentrified and stuff now. Verdun's getting kind of
where
nice.
you are.
Yeah, I need to go to Villemar. Or do you mean my apartment?
Well, yeah, you're the block that your apartment is on.
Yeah, I'm next to an old folks home, which is pretty sweet because, you know, other than the sound of the odd ambulance, it's pretty fucking quiet.
And the sunbathing.
I mean, none of them are sunbathing. If anything, like they come out looking like California raisins. It's not a good look.
Yeah.
For those of you who are under the age of 30, go and look up what California raisins are on the internet. You won't know anything I'm talking about. The TV show, the music, nothing. Do you remember California raisins, Paul?
Yeah, I remember them as an adult. There's also Spitting Image is coming back, talking about.
Yeah, I've been reading this for a while.
Was supposed to come back. I don't know if it actually they started and stopped again or not, but there was supposed to be an American version of Spitting Image.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so like I remember Spitting Image from when I was a kid. And for those of you who don't know that, go and look it up as well. Although, unless you have UK relatives, most of it is going to be lost on you, apart from like maybe the Michael Jackson stuff, because a lot of it's to do with UK politics. Yeah. There's some fun things about the Queen and whatever. But who would think if you brought Spitting Image back like 30 years later, or like, we'll say 25 years later, that they'd still be able to do stuff about the Queen? Unbelievable.
Yeah,
But
she's hanging in there. She must be
spitting
related
image,
to you.
yes, spitting. I hope not. Spitting image Trump is like that's 2.5 seasons on its own. If they had started in like 2018, now it's just going to be. Although he might not leave the White House, so who knows?
Well, if they brick him behind a wall, I don't think I'd complain.
If they do what to him behind the wall?
Brick him in.
Oh, brick him in, because in Scotland, if you brick someone, that's a whole different ball game.
Oh, all right. Explain that one to me. I mean, I imagine it's like the same as like I was assuming Glasgow sketch, a Glasgow kiss, but to brick someone is to hit somebody with a brick.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's.
Yep.
How do you get him behind the wall in the first place?
I mean, you tempt him with some, I don't know, Goya
McDonald's?
beans. You tempt him with nudes of his daughter.
Yeah, I think he has all those though.
Hey Donald, we've got some Ivanka nudes here. You want to come and touch her in the pussy? Fucking asshole. No, I don't mean her asshole. And fuck her in the asshole. Yeah, maybe she wants to do that. That's a David Pride joke, man. Have you seen David Pride's Donald Trump joke?
The political jazz joke.
Yeah,
That's so brilliant.
So
and it's evolving continually.
He's keeping it topical.
Yeah.
I feel like I would be like though that experiment where they would get 100 or like a dozen monkeys in a room with a typewriter trying to write it, and eventually they're like Shakespeare. That whole sort of philosophical gambit. I feel like if I was given a typewriter or like a laptop or whatever, and 10 years just to bash away on it, I could not write something as good as David Pride's political jazz joke. And you know what's annoying? That's one of his newest jokes. He's got like 10 years of equally great written bits. It's so annoying.
David Pride is
good for him.
Yeah, David Pride is one of the treasures in the Canadian comedy scene.
No, the comedy scene. Period.
The comedy scene. Period.
Yeah, man.
But he's known more in Canada. He's not really known anywhere. Like he's toured Australia. He's played in the UK, but he's never like caught there to the level that his talent obviously he deserves to.
I think he's kind of quintessentially Canadian though, because he's understated and he's kind of like brash, but it almost seems his face is apologetic about being brash whenever he's brash. Like I just think he would go down well anywhere, but I think he's best suited to Canada.
I mean, Stuart Francis is Canadian, and he does very well in the UK, and a lot of his stuff is very understated and clever. So that's one of the reasons I think that David would do well there.
Okay, I'm going to do something really fun for your viewers. I'm going to zoom in on this while I go and get a charger for my Mac, because I'm about to die of battery and didn't plug my Mac in. So I just want viewers to just have a quick zoom in on this very real and in no way fake flower. Just let's do that. Yeah, a nice. That's the money shot right there. That's the money shot.
This is very Zach Galifianakis. So I'm talking with Darren Henwood while he goes to grab a charger for his laptop. If anyone does have any questions, please just put them in the chat. I can bring them on screen so we can make sure that Darren has a chance to answer them. And I do want to. Where did that go? If anyone wants to follow and hear more about Darren or find out when he's playing, for example, you can always follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Darren Henwood, and that almost looks like he potted the Queen's Fascinator. So we have that, and as a good Scottish boy, you can see his collection of teapots that he has over there behind him as he's coming back in. He's got a big smile on his face, and he uses his tongue to touch his curly mustache.
Yeah, man.
Welcome back, Darren. Darren, I thank you for the camera angle, because we actually get to see at least part of your collection of teapots.
Oh yeah, like how British is this? I've got like a collection of teapots, and none of those are mine.
They're not yours. Oh,
None
right.
of them. Not one of them is mine. It's my the lovely Heather, the balcony bound Heather is also a lover of the finer British points of life. She's actually more Scottish than I am. She's got like red hair, and her name is like the national flower of Scotland. Yeah. Everyone's more Scottish than me. You've got red hair, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I got gray in it too, so
It's true, but like underneath, like I remember when you had this big, long, curly ginger mane. Halifax is Mick Hucknall.
Ooh, dude. All right, so COVID. How has COVID changed your life? Like besides the lockdown, the fact that you missed your mom.
Don't like the Mick Hucknall reference? Like he was a stud back in the 90s. He could have bagged any woman that he wanted. I mean, he was a bit of a butterface, but what a voice!
It's the butterface. It's the.
I wasn't liking in your faces. I was liking in your hairs.
But you weren't liking in my voice.
Yeah, I've not heard you sing. If you blast out a couple of bars of Simply Red right now, like let's see if we can get some Simply Red on my phone. Hold on.
We can't play music or else we get copyright strikes. That's yeah. So
never mind Echo. Like back to bed. I have one of those Amazon listening devices in my home, so it can understand everything I ever want ever, and can. I'm surprised. Like along this little thing we have going along the bottom that has your money grab thing there. I'm surprised that isn't like Amazon hasn't taken over and been like, buy Simply Red's album on sale for $9.99 right now. Mick Hucknall's greatest hits available at your local Amazon.
Which could possibly eventually be the feed of this when the big boys start coming in going, hey, streaming is something that we should be monetizing and advertising on.
Hey man, if they want to give you money.
No, it's the thing is right now streamers do get money when they get big enough, but the big companies are coming in and are going to be quashing it or raising the bar to get in a little bit higher. So I'm still not making much. I'm not making any, actually. Just the odd donation.
The odd donation. So is there anyone watching us right now?
Right now, yeah, we actually have. There is people watching. We've got 5 different likes.
Cool.
Yeah. So
those 5 people, wait till the next URL comes along the bottom, and then I don't know. What do you type it in and give money?
Oh, it's this one right here. Hello, Heather. She's behind you it's that one there. So
that's actually not my Heather, although it is another Heather.
Oh, all right. You're collecting Heathers and teapots.
Yeah,
there we are.
This is a Verdun socially distanced neighbor of ours who's also called Heather.
Well, welcome. That link tree actually gives a link to all my social media, as well as has the donation button at the top. It just says buy me a drink. So
what drink would you like people to buy?
A very expensive one. You should
have options up there like buy me this is $3.
This is somebody who I wish would actually properly sponsor me, but they don't as of yet. But it's a Montreal company. And they make a delicious. What kind of alcohol do you think that is? You might recognize it. You might know it.
I was going to say maybe if you show the label, they might sponsor you.
Yeah, well, I do, but I'm playing the guessing game with you first.
Oh, okay. I think it looks like red wine vinegar.
You're. I would have to say that you're very close to being completely and totally wrong. Actually, I think you are completely and totally wrong. It's Madison Park.
Cool.
This is their breakfast gin.
Wow, that's a very dark gin.
Well, it includes Earl Grey tea.
That's why it's a breakfast gin. It's because it includes a nice caffeinated beverage. And does it taste like Earl Grey tea?
It does have a faint taste of like a really fresh tea.
Interesting. And I've tried tea infused iced cream before, which was just blah. Green tea ice cream, good. Regular tea ice cream, terrible. Why would you do that?
This one, this is a very good gin. I'm not like Matt. They do. It's 1769. Is the
Price?
distillers?
Oh, sorry,
Uh,
the distillers. I'm like, that's a very specific price for a bottle of gin.
yes.
$17.69. I think that's a good price. What do you think? Hey, let's put it to board decisions. Oh, $17.60. No, $17.69. We're sticking with it. Okay. Madison Park, ladies and gentlemen, available at your SAQ.
They make a few gins, and that is actually that's my favorite from that.
Okay, so of the 5 viewers, probably 3 now because we just got down a topic of tea.
And gin.
If any of you have any like love in your hearts, you will tag Madison Park on Instagram, and social media, Twitter, and at Paul Ash, and say, this guy, episode 24 from 24 episodes, he's been like just shilling your products left, right, and center. Please send this man a free bottle of gin.
The wonderful people, the Love Doctor also has been pushing it pretty heavily. So
who's that?
He's a guy that I share the channel with. He does a show every Wednesday night.
Oh man, sounds like a guy with a terrible accent.
Yeah, well, we'll move on from that very quickly.
Okay, so wait. You've been asking me a lot of questions about myself. I'm sure the viewers at home, if they're at home, want to know about you.
Oh, okay. I might not be an open book, but go right ahead.
How's your pandemic been?
My pandemic has been strained because I as you mentioned, I've upgraded to the second wife, and but we don't cohabitate, and so
that's a smart idea for marriage. Honestly, like that, good for you. You're like a 21st century thinker right there. I'm going to marry you, but not fucking live with you because that's a bit too much. Smart.
Yeah, it kind of worked out. I mean, there has been talk about will we or won't we eventually, but she has a wonderful apartment with that. When the lockdown first happened, I would kind of visit and stay there for 2 weeks. No one have any loss of sense of smell or whatever, and then I'd come back to my other apartment. But her job is fairly high stress, and she was an essential, so she was working. So that meant a lot of downtime while I was there, my other apartment, I actually have roommates, one of which is a cancer survivor. So he is immunosuppressed, and that means taking very good care of him. So since she's socially distancing there and taking care, and she's working from home, and we're doing that here, I do go and I visit for a shorter period rather than just 2 weeks, and then come back. So I'm bouncing back and forth between the two locations.
So, feel free to not answer this if you don't want to. If you had no intention of living with her, then why marry her?
I think it's the fact that it's the sense of commitment you want to show the person that you think of them that highly.
I'll betroth my life to you, but just not share a lease because those are legally binding as well.
Yeah. Well, actually, we're not legally married. Anyways,
you're celebrated.
We're celebrated. We wanted to sort of like have a party with our friends and families, and to share these feelings we have for each other, and not ruin her credit rating.
Which is also why you're not sharing a lease with her. Smart man.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, if you want to talk about, I have an incredible family. My daughter and her husband just bought a house, and they understand exactly where my career is. So she has told me that there is a room in the house that is for me. So if I need a place to stay ever, I have
the granny flat.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nice.
So, yeah. Since there's no kids right now, I think that's a I don't know if it's a grampy flat or not.
Well, I mean, you just have to move there and like ensure they don't have kids. Well, you're stuck with me now. You made the offer.
Unfortunately, it's a hell of a commute to go to my wife's place at that point.
Are they planning to have children?
Um,
Are you ready to be a grampy?
I'll be ready when it happens. It's that choice is theirs. As of currently, I think there hasn't been any set plans. But now that they're nesting in the fact that they've actually bought a house and a property and they have land, they might need children to work it. I'm not sure exactly how this, how that pans
you don't
out.
even know how marriage works, so
Yeah. So that's why I'm on number 2. But yeah, it's the way it goes. Now, with everything that's happening in the States, how do you feel about what's up? What's like?
I mean, you keep waiting for it to be over. You keep waiting for it to be like, I mean, it's year 4 and he's still surprising us as to how low he'll go.
Yeah.
Like year 1, I remember being like, oh man, this is the worst. And then after year 4, the fact he is still fresh material every week, the guy's a machine. He is just, his writers must be so proud. Just 4 years of absolute trashy gold he's managing to churn out. I mean, now he's got this federal police force that he's just invented to invade cities. Like all I can see is like you open Donald Trump's top drawer. It's got like a gun he has no idea how to use, a Bible he has no idea how to read, all of those Ivanka nudes, and then tucked away at the bottom, it's like Idiot's Guide to KGB. I don't know, he's just all of the worst parts of all of the leaders he says he's against.
Does he say he's against them?
I mean, he's running on a platform of anti-China and all of their atrocities against the Muslims after he imposed a Muslim ban and then locked a bunch of kids in cages. Like he's claiming people of like, I don't know, corruption. The Bidens of corruption. He's the most fucking. He's had to.
He did an ad. He did an ad for Goya.
Yeah. He's the most corrupt person in the world, but like he never ceases to amaze. Like if he gets elected again, you have to kind of go like, as George Bush put it, "Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me."
Was that right?
The point is, you can't fool me again.
Right.
I think, in the words of George W. Bush. I mean, if he gets in again, and I don't think he'll get in. I mean, all of the polling data, even his most ardent supporters are really not confident of him getting in, regardless of how divisive he can be in the next 2 months. And that's when voting starts, is like in 2 months' time, like the early votes. Yeah. The risk now is he's been working for almost a full solid year on undermining the reliability of mail-in votes.
Yeah.
Do you remember what must it be, like 12 years ago?
The hanging chat or the
No,
that was even longer.
16 years ago. 16 years ago. Bush, the inconvenient truth guy, Al Gore.
Yeah.
It's a runoff. It's a runoff from Florida. They're basically tied for the presidency. And there was a runoff vote in the state of Florida, which, it's fucking Florida. And Jeb Bush was like the governor. And everyone was just like, well, this is a rigged thing. And then Bush got in. And how different would the world have been if Al Gore got to be president instead of fucking George W. Bush? Like a few months into the Bush presidency, we had 9/11, and then everything just spiraled out of control. It really was the spilling Lego on the floor in the dark moment of the world when you can't see what you're about to step on.
Yeah.
Like there have been enough recent events in American politics and American presidential races where it's been a very close count and it's gone back to a recount, and there's been like contentious musings about the recount and stuff like that the very same thing could happen. And Donald Trump has been working his damnedest to sow mistrust in all the mail voting. Plus, we already had Russian interference in the previous election. There's so many, like, he's got so many outs. He's like a poker player who never, like, he just goes in with like a 7-2 offsuit all the time and hopes he sucks out of the other opponent with like a fucking like deuce coming on the river when they've hit a set and he needs like one card for a straight that he's hoping for. Man, it's worrying the fact that he might be like the first president to not leave office. And would you be surprised? No, because let's face it, it would be like 157th on the list of worst things that he's done while being president is like not leave office when he's supposed to. I'd probably lie about it, saying that like this is the best thing I've done. Like I'm standing up to the radical left. Radical left. What if like all these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle references about being radical, and like I don't understand where the radical left ever came from. It's a weird like I understand him thinking like communism is radical left, but it's just anyone who's a Democrat.
Yeah,
he used to give money to Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton when they were Democrats.
Yep,
he's lost his fucking mind.
Well, no, he probably was giving money to both sides. He was hedging the bets at that point. But the thing is, he was able to grab a fan base fairly early, and he's all about just the sound bite. I mean, he's hollow. He'll probably try to stay in there until like some military officers go to remove him, or even let's face it, because the Treasury Department, the secret agents who are protecting him, it's been pretty clear they don't like him. They're doing it because they do their job and they feel responsibility. I don't think they would have any trouble escorting him out of the building as long as they make sure he's still breathing.
Did you see the new revelation that came out this week from the New York Times about him trying to coerce a Scottish ambassador to move try to get the Scottish Open to the Trump Turnberry course? Like, if you ever get the chance, viewers, the two that are left or one that's left,
we're up to 3 now.
Oh, perfect! If you ever get the chance, you 3 people, to go and see former Daily Show, sort of like
the John Oliver show.
The girl Samantha Bee.
Samantha Bee. Okay.
Samantha Bee's bit on Donald Trump in Scotland. If you haven't already seen that, look it up on the internet. It is fantastic. We fucking hate that man with a passion so much. I have a Scottish comedian friend called Janie Godley, and she has been immortalized numerous times in artwork and photos because she turned up when Trump came the first time before he was president to try and like buy people off the land for his golf course, and she just turned up with a handmade sign that said "Trump is a cunt." Just right, straight up, Trump is a cunt. Yeah. And she stood there on her own with her little sign, Trump is a cunt. I got photographed so many times. It's been made into memes. It's been made into art. It's been made into crochet. And I've actually done shows with her in Canada as well as in Scotland. And we like, if there's one, I mean, I'm sure there's multiple countries, Mexico being probably top of the list, and China actually being new top of the list. But if there's one European country that will definitely not kowtow to Trump, it has to be Scotland. We couldn't give a shit. And he claims to be Scotch. He's like, really? I'm Scotch myself. And it's like, that's not what we call ourselves, so you're clearly fucking not, you twat.
Yeah. Okay, but you mentioned it, you were just saying if Al Gore had got in, what would have changed? But the thing is, the systemic racism that has been in the police that extends further back. Like,
I'm not talking about Black Lives Matter. I'm talking about pulling out the Paris Accords. I'm talking about Greta Thunberg. I'm talking about getting carbon emissions down and solving the problem that's going to kill us all regardless of race, which is global warming. Like, yes, racism and systemic racism in the police force and just in society in general through imperialism and all of these other kind of conquests of the European nations through Africa, South America, and all these other places is a stain on humanity that will probably never shift because we will always have an us versus them mentality. And I'm not saying that as like a white man who is unaware of his privilege in life. I'm just saying that as a scholar of history. But all of us are going to get wiped out if we don't fucking get our carbon emissions under control. So I just think Al Gore would have been a lot better from that standpoint. He wouldn't have been like, yeah, coal industry, go ahead, do your worst. He may have tried to influence people like Jair Bolsonaro of Brazil, who's now like a Trump fanatic. And so he's following Trump's lead and is just cutting down the Amazon willy-nilly. Like just all of the worst things that are happening. Like, I don't know if you know.
And is supported by the same company that owns Tim Hortons. So feel proud, Canadians.
Of course. I mean, Tim Hortons stopped being Canadian the minute Burger King bought them. Like, yeah. Tim Hortons hasn't been Canadian for like about 6 years. As much as we'd love it to be, the coffee's still great. I'm glad. Tim Hortons won't be in business in about 10 years. They don't have any young people going in their doors. There's better competitors out there. McDonald's is never going away. Like, Tim Hortons has a shelf life, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So anyway, all I was saying about Al Gore is he would be better for environmental laws and environmental and we may have never had the Iraq War, period. Because I don't know if a Democrat would have gone into Iraq in the same way as President Bush did, because he was just avenging his father. Let's be honest.
No.
So like that whole kind of initial runoff between Bush and Gore just set the tone for the next 15 years. And we find ourselves where we are today, which is trumping to not being able to fucking know the difference between 7-Eleven and 9-11, because he called it 7-Eleven one time in a rally, because he's 7-Eleven, never forget, their burritos, they're terrible. And yeah, it's been a slippery slope ever since then. And the whole world is just like there doesn't seem to be a country that's doing super well. Like Britain, we've got the whole Brexit thing. No one gives a shit. Like Spain, coronavirus, they can't handle their shit. Germany is doing pretty well, considering, but even they had like an anti-Semitic incident this week where someone tried to storm a synagogue in armor and stuff, and the only reason they couldn't get in was because of the big door. Like no one's doing well. Like New Zealand, everyone moved to New Zealand as soon as they open their borders. Move to fucking New Zealand and find a place with a female leader. Find a place with a female leader and just get citizenship. Fuck your way into citizenship, the same as I did, and do your best to get to somewhere like that.
Yeah, the thing is, if everybody moves to New Zealand, it's gonna be a shit show. Sure. You know, I'd like to be able to point to New Zealand and say, "See, that's great. Now keep the fuck out of it."
Yeah.
So we can figure a way to
like telling everyone about your favorite bar, and then 5 weeks later, like your buddies at work have invited all their buddies from work, and I was like, "Oh, that's bar shit."
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So shows coming up. What do you have in the future? I know that you've played at the Comedy Nest since it has reopened to the reduced audience or reduced capacity.
It's different. I mean, there's no like. None of the comedians will be like, yes, it feels just the same. It's not. It's different. It's not bad. Different. It's just different. Like there's less people there because we don't want to run the risk of people getting sick, and for an outbreak to start in somewhere like that where everyone's trying to go there to kind of have a bit of a release from this situation and enjoy themselves. So they're being very clever about the way they do things, about the way they sit people in the audience, and people in the audience are much of the time wear masks. The comedians wear a mask 99% of the time. They have to drink their beer, which means they have to take it off now and again. But even then, like the green room is pretty much closed. We're all like out behind the Comedy Nest in the sort of like the bowels of the
service hallways.
Yeah, we're in the servers' hallways basically because the green room is too small for the comedians that we can't respect social distancing. So everyone's kind of out there and like we're shouting across the hall to each other to have a conversation because we all want to stay a minimum distance away from one another. The bar staff are wearing masks and visors, which isn't the same as a lot of restaurants that I've seen where they're just wearing one or the other. But the Comedy Nest, everyone's like super well geared up. They have temperature checks. We get my forehead temperature checked every time on the way in, so that they can guarantee that the comedians aren't risking any of the audience members, and vice versa. And yeah, it's been really good. It's been good to get back on that stage that I love. It's been good to see a lot of the comedians whom I love, and like just it's crap because like you've been in comedy shows before. I like to hug people. There's many huggers in the comedy scene, and it's sad that you can't go and embrace your. I mean, I treat them like colleagues, like I treat them like friends, but like colleagues as well, whereby like you're having this shared experience as someone who's about to do comedy in a completely different atmosphere. And it's hard not to be able to just walk up and go, "Hey, buddy, great to see you." And yeah, I mean that's again hugely privileged point of view, considering there's people who have not been able to go to parents' funerals during COVID. But at the same time, like all of these small things add up, and especially I feel sorry for like the single people out there. I'm lucky enough that I can have someone I come home and I can hug every night without worrying about getting infected or anything like that. So I can't imagine what it's like for some of these other people who like are dying to reach out and just touch someone in a perfectly consensual way and not be able to do that.
No, well, okay. Somebody who we both know who lives alone, Elsbeth Wright. I think she's
got a mannequin. She has a mannequin.
She has her mannequin, so she's not totally alone. But she's actually taken the time to start live streaming. I've started live streaming. A lot of online shows have sort of grown up in this time period. Do you think when the vaccine is out there and there's some semblance of normalcy, do you think it's all going to go away, or do you think this has affected a permanent change on how people can be entertained?
I generally think it's affected a permanent change. It's going to reduce for sure, because people are going to want to go back out to the cinema. They're going to want to go to a restaurant. They're going to want to do something that is, and I know you'll see like a kind of spike and then a kind of tail off at the beginning. But at the same time, like if you look at businesses, Shopify as an example, Facebook as an example, they have began to tell their employees you can work from home forever. They've permanently shifted away from a centralized office model, which means the world is going to shift, and this is a world change event. And there's going to be more online content that is local, more online content that is amateur, outside of the porn space. More online content that is like grassroots and all these types of things. And I don't think like this show or Elspeth's show or anything will definitely go back to like a live studio forum. I think there'll be much more like online content in general, but we're gonna lose some of the traction. It's just natural. Like there's once the audience is allowed to regress back to the norm. We've only had 7 months of this. We've had however many decades of our own personal lives of the other way. So it's going to change for one part of the generation, and it'll be like a fragment that will be existing forevermore, but it won't be on the scale that it is right now, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong.
It'll become one of the options, whereas instead of being one of the major options. I've already noticed as the rest of the world has sort of come back, numbers have dropped on the various shows that I'm producing here. Excuse me. But a week from tomorrow, you're going to actually be on BattleCom?
Yeah, we're going to do BattleCom live and in person. I'm excited. I'm excited to do BattleCom because BattleCom is one of these things whereby it doesn't actually matter if you're live or not, because I will probably get destroyed by anybody on any forum. BattleCom is one of those more cerebral comedy shows where like
it's more of a panel show. The way the online version is more of a panel show, but it's cool. It is competitive.
One of the most annoying things about BattleCom, and I mean this from a personal point of view, like I really love the concept of BattleCom, and I think you should pitch it to the Canadian Netflix thing. I think it has. I don't care. You just wedge it into a category and just like pitch it anyway. I think it has legs. I really think there's an audience out there for it. But one of the most annoying things personally for me is that you have to be good at writing jokes. And as we've learned earlier tonight, that's not something I'm very good at. And because you have a kind of regular audience that is more of a repeating audience, I can only skate by on my good looks and charm. And I'm using good looks in the loosest sense of the word.
No, your personal style.
Yeah,
more
I
than
can
good
only
looks.
skate by my personal style for so long with a repeat fucking group. At some point, they're just like, yeah, facts aren't jokes, and neither are anything you have said on stage tonight. So yeah, this is why like my first couple of outings against my nemesis and great friend Jason Hattrick were like 50-50, and we were giving each other good blows. And after that, it's just been like I've been decimated almost every single time because he is a consistently thoughtful and good writer. I'm just like waka 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 the topic. And
You are one of the best dressed people in the Montreal comedy scene, though. I will definitely say that.
I'd go a bit further and say any scene, but sure, the comedy scene. I mean, I'm inside in the summer and I'm still wearing a button up all the way to the top. That kind of shows you the level of commitment that I'm willing to impart. And what are we down to 2 viewers? And I'm still not undoing that fucking button.
No, we popped up to 4. We're currently at 3. Plus,
God
there's
damn.
always the repeat viewers. People are going to come back and like people who will discover that this is out there later. Because
cool. Well, anyone who's watching to the hour mark on this, if you want to just click on the www.linktree.e/Paul Ash and buy him a fucking drink. Just buy him an expensive cocktail. Pretend you're in an all-inclusive and you're splashing about your money. Wait, that doesn't make any sense.
it made no sense whatsoever.
Pretend you're in the opposite of an all-inclusive, a non-inclusive, and you're being charged through the nose for local alcohol. And give him like just stick a little $5 in his little thong there, a little $10. He loves it.
Yeah, I'm not even wearing pants while we do this, so this is great.
Look, he needs to be able to afford some sort of like talcum powder for his head so he doesn't look as if he's constantly disappearing. The guy can't even afford a full skull line. He's really suffering right now. Just please donate www.linktree/.
So, Darren, but thank you for the pitches. But you mentioned you had a project coming up that you wanted to say. So let's.
I do. Like next week, we're going to be launching episode 1 of. I don't really know what time frame to give it. I want to call it like a tri-weekly, like once every 3 weeks. But some friends and I are going to be doing like a miniature online version of a Canadian political satire show.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's called Oh Canada, after the national anthem, but more like kind of, oh, Canada. Episode 1 is all about the episode of Jagmeet Singh getting kicked out of Parliament for calling Alan Terry a racist, which is a little bit out of the news now, but like we've had a very slow turnaround time on episode 1. Episode 2 will be following later in August. And yeah, Jason Hattrick is actually one of the writers on that show. So it shows that our resentment for one another at least does not break at the moment.
The ability to work with us.
Yeah, the ability. I was going to say financial lines, but none of us are making any money because it's a passion project. So, and Peter Radomski also is a writer on the show, and I've teamed up with a couple of really great producers who are like a great young producing team from Brazil / Minnesota.
Okay, so this isn't the project that Shannon did a tester for earlier this year.
I have no idea who Shannon is, and definitely not.
Okay, all right. Sorry, one of the bartender
Shannon
servers. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure she was probably testing for a Canadian political satire show.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense. She's a journalist and very funny and very likable, and I'm sure she'd be great at that. No, my friends who run their own production company are huge fans of John Oliver, and they're just like, hey, no one's doing this for Canada. Let's do something together. We know you because we play poker together, and they're like, you're like an on-screen talent type of guy. I'm like, I mean, sure, if you've got no one else. And so we're putting something together and we're releasing it just on YouTube. And the first episode is coming out at some point on the weekend or on Monday.
I would let me know so I can share it, but I would also recommend cross-platform it to Twitch because Twitch may not have the reach that YouTube has, but it has an easier monetization, which gives you a chance of catching more of an audience as well.
That's some good advice right there.
Hey.
Is that because I've read out www.linktree/Paul Ash for the 17th time, I think, tonight?
All right. I'm gonna take that off.
Why? It's your moneymaker. This is my moneymaker. You have a link tree.
There we are. All right. This has been Darren Henwood. I've been Paul Ash. This is They Talk Funny. Thank you very much for tuning in. And this show happens once or twice a week with not an easily set time. So it's going to work out it'll happen when it happens. Just pay attention to the social media that's listed at the bottom. On Instagram or Twitter, Paul Ash Comedy. You'll find out when the next show is.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go right ahead.
www.linktree.e/Paul Ash. Buy him a drink, buy him a Mercedes, buy him pretend you're like in the Bare Naked Ladies song $1 Million. Buy him some fancy mustard or a green dress, but not a real green dress.
Dijon ketchup.
Because that's cruel.
Thank you very much. By the way, they hate my hometown.
The Bare Naked Ladies hate Halifax?
They wrote a song about how much they hate Halifax.
I mean, the BNL can never be wrong, so I'm on their team.
No, they were wrong.